We will call to order the governing board meeting for Scottsdale Unified School District. Today is October 9th, and the time is 5:08. And Mrs. Peterson, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Okay, we'll have roll call, starting with Dr. Meyer.
Eric Meyer.
Jennifer Peterson.
Pam Kirby.
Denny Brown.
And Bonnie Sneed. All members are present. And I entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
I
So
move.
moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Brown moves and Mrs. Peterson seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's 5-0. Okay, student and staff recognition and celebrations.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight we have some great recognitions of things that are happening here in Scottsdale schools. It's hard to believe that we are a few days away from October break, and it's come very, very quickly. First, we would like to recognize our own president of the school board, Ms. Bonnie Sneed, who has been selected as the Arizona School Boards Association Maricopa County Co-Director. So, Mrs. Sneed, congratulations. We did host the Maricopa County School Board representatives last week at Coronado High School, and it was an incredible meeting. And we had great representation, and we appreciated the opportunity to do that.
It just goes to prove, feed them, and they'll vote for you.
Next, I would like to have our own Dr. Mitch Von Echten come up and introduce our high school principals and talk a little bit about some of our incredible high school seniors that are moving forward and what they will be doing.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce our National Merit semifinalists and commended students. They're sitting in our audience with their principals. Congratulations to our National Merit semifinalists and commended students. Scottsdale Unified School District is extremely proud of the hard work that these students did to receive this recognition. This year, SUD had 35 National Merit finalists and 41 commended students. That's quite an accomplishment, and I'm proud of every one of them. At this time, I will introduce each principal by school, where they will introduce their students and present a certificate. At this time, from Arcadia, I'd like to introduce Principal John Vieira.
Thank you, Dr. Von Echten, Madam President, Ms. Sneed, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra. It's certainly my pleasure up here to certainly recognize our outstanding and amazing students at Arcadia High School, as well as with their parents. So when I call your name, would you please stand? Parents, would you also stand, because you certainly played an integral role in this accomplishment. I'd like to, first and foremost, right up here. I'm sorry? Oh, bring them up. Oh, bring up here. Okay. All right. Well, parents and students, would you please come up to the front? Oh, students. Okay. All right. All right. We get this right. Okay. All right. So first and foremost, the commended students. When I call your name, please come up here from Arcadia High School. Mr. Tyler Cardinal. National Merit Commended Student, Miss Lucy Hall Hartley. National Merit Commended Student, Ms. Jana Moore. National Merit Commended Student, Mr. Jeffrey Silver. National Merit Commended Student, Ms. Bridget Von Oppenfeld. Congratulations to our commended students. Our National Merit semifinalist, Mr. Trevor Day. National Merit semifinalist, Miss Nicole Fisk. National Merit semifinalist, Mr. Matthew Heffron. I believe Matthew had an event this afternoon. And then National Merit semifinalist, Mr. Dalton Woodard. Arcadia High School. And parents, thank you.
And students, if you would wait in the lobby for us, because we're going to take a picture of all the high school students together, because we're going to have you on some of our buses driving around town so that we can advertise what great jobs you're doing. So when each of the schools finish up, please, all of you collectively meet in the lobby. And Carla and then we'll take you outside and we'll get a great group shot, because we want to really advertise and highlight all the great things you guys are doing. Congratulations.
Next up, we have Mrs. Gail Holland, principal of Chaparral High School.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Von Nechten, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra. It's always nice to see you. This is always a special time in the life of a high school principal to congratulate these students that have achieved so much. We were fortunate at Chaparral. We have 15 National Merit semifinalists and 20 commended students. So an outstanding group. And they're not only academically gifted, they're in sports, they're in clubs, they're in community service events, so they do a lot of things. They're very special individuals. And a lot of them aren't here because they are doing those other things. So we'll start with commended first. Katarina Chin, Brent Chester, who's a National Merit commended. I know Brent's here. Jessica Gettleman, National Merit Commended Scholar. Alex Hicks couldn't be here this evening. Alex Husing is also National Merit Commended. Emily Kaplan, National Merit Commended. Layla Karimi couldn't be here this evening. Cassidy Kiddo couldn't be here. Zachary Kirschner, also National Merit Commended. Megan Kotzen is here, National Merit Commended student. Coulter Lahiro is a National Merit Commended. Nick Lundgren, also National Merit Commended. Jackson Parker, National Merit Commended. Caleb Strife, National Merit Commended. Connor Savetli, National Merit Commended. He's actually at football practice right now. Philip Terzic is a National Merit Commended. Claire Tomlinson is commended. Dustin Vesey is commended. And Elijah Weisbrod is also commended. Now for our National Merit semifinalists, Stephen Bassett. National Merit semifinalist, Isabel Carter-Kahn, who's also a member of the Student Advisory Board. Skylar Cohen, National Merit. Maya Frona, National Merit. Mara Green is National Merit semifinalist. Benjamin Krakoff, National Merit semifinalist. Belle Lynn, Haley Mann, Michael Meng. Cole Novat, Jeff Shepton, Alexandra Stockdale, and Aditya Vijay. I just didn't see you. You cut your hair. She cut her hair, I swear. That's why I was like, oh my gosh. You didn't have that earlier this week. Oh, all right, sorry. She's a triplet. I was looking at another one. Aditya Vijay and Daniel Vuklovich are also all National Merit semifinalists. So congratulations to these students, to all the students, and to their parents. They have a great deal to do with it. Thank you.
Again, if you'd be in the lobby, we're going to make sure that you all team up together because we definitely want to get you guys on our buses.
Next up from Coronado High School, we have Principal Alyssa Tarkenton.
Good evening, governing board members, Dr. Peterson, Ms. Como. I am proud to present the names to you tonight. Our outstanding students were very tied up in extracurricular activities and projects tonight, and apologize for not being here, but they are excited, and I'm very excited for them. And so our first National Merit semifinalist is Charles, who likes to go by Charlie Unfricht. Thank you. And Ayana Siders, who is a National Merit semifinalist as well.
Next up, Principal Gregg Milbrandt from Desert Mountain High School.
Madam President, members of the board, we have a number of students, and hopefully we'll zip through these with Desert Mountain. Maddie Grohl, commended student, not here this evening. Cameron Hart, commended student. Just off crutches, so he's walking very well. Megan Liu, commended student. Connor Miller, commended student. Hannah Murphy, commended student. Alyssa Niren, commended student. Natasha Raskin, commended student. She's missing golf practice. So. Joseph Reisman, commended student. Ian Tang, commended student. Elena Vargas, commended student. Sandra Zarmer, commended student. Laura Abril, commended student. Tai Dao, semifinalist. Mingru Ding, semifinalist. Henry Frenzel, semifinalist. Soham Gupta, semifinalist. Scott Heim, semifinalist. Eric Juarez, semifinalist. Shrikath Reddy, semifinalist. Victoria Simmons, semifinalist. Nika Wukulik Korak, semifinalist. And Austin Ye, semifinalist. That is the Desert Mountain students. I'm so sorry. Well, let's go. I buried it. Let's go back out here.
Representing Saguaro High School tonight is Mr. Nathan Slater. Mr. Court cannot join us tonight, so Mr. Slater, please, for Saguaro.
Thank you, Dr. Von Echten. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra, thank you for having us this evening. It's my pleasure to represent Brian Court, the Saguaro Learning Community, to recognize our outstanding students. First, we have Aurora Brockman for an outstanding participant. She's accompanied by her mother, Susan. We have commended scholar Patrick Omgel. We also have Rachel Barnett, who's accompanied by her parents Lisa and Bob. Another commended scholar is Aiden Levine. Saguaro did have one student who unfortunately moved out of state who's a semifinalist. Her name is Kaylin Greenberg. She did move out of state, however. And our last semifinalist from Saguaro High School is William Gelbreth, who was accompanied by his father, Todd and Tina. On behalf of Saguaro High School and our learning committee, we'd like to thank you again for recognizing these students.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. It's really a great day that we can really celebrate student achievement, and that's really what we were doing this evening. To have 76 National Merit semifinalists and commended scholars, I think is truly a testament to the incredible job that our staffs are doing and that our parents are doing to support their children so that they are truly getting good quality education, and we're very, very proud of that.
And I think I can speak for the whole board in congratulating all of the achievements of the students and the teachers and the parents and the administrators that helped them get there.
We do have a few more recognitions this evening. First, Dr. Von Echten is up. We'll have him introduce Principal Tanya Beckwith.
We have the Middle School PE Teacher of the Year in our midst tonight, so at this time I'd like to introduce Principal Tanya Beckwith of Ingleside, who will introduce the recipient of this prestigious honor.
Okay. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra. Thank you. It's my pleasure to have the opportunity to speak about and to celebrate Miss Susan Leonard. Miss Susan Leonard has been awarded from the Arizona Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance, has been selected as the Arizona State Middle School Physical Education Teacher of the Year.
Wow.
Congratulations, Susan. As Susan's up here, it's my pleasure to share what an outstanding physical education teacher Susan is, not only at Ingleside Middle School, but at Sequoia Elementary. She's a teacher that makes things happen. She has initiated many school activities and programs that always promote healthy lifestyles and choices for students and adults. Her energy and enthusiasm for teaching and learning is awesome. She has been an outstanding leader at Ingleside and throughout our school district. She has connected physical education programs to our community in many ways, and I know you've all heard about some of these different activities. Some of the activities that she has initiated and organized are, number one, Pink Out Day, in which lessons and activities are connected with breast cancer awareness. This is very evident in the lobby as you came in this evening and across the district. Pennies for Push-Ups is another program in which students earn donations for less fortunate students, for children. Fit City is the City of Scottsdale event that is meant to encourage all members of the community to incorporate healthy lifestyle habits. Susan has been a leader with all of this. She also has been a lead Scottsdale Middle School physical education teacher, in which she facilitates and leads staff development, and she's a go-to person for her fellow colleagues in the area of physical education. Ms. Leonard is a NBCT PE candidate. She is attempting to become the first Physical Education National Board certified teacher in our district. She is in her second year of this process. Not only has Ms. Leonard been a leader at the school and district level, but the state level as well. She has coordinated a state committee made up of people chosen from across Arizona that impact the inclusion of health-related issues in the schools. Ms. Leonard has also been a committee member on the Arizona Physical Education Standards Revision Committee. She's helped to revise the middle school portion of the state physical education standards. And last but not least, Ms. Leonard is on the board of directors for the Arizona Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. This is a governing body for physical education for the state of Arizona. Ms. Leonard is truly a leader in physical education, and it is my pleasure to congratulate her once again and thank her for the outstanding contributions she not only makes to Ingleside, but to our school district and at a state level. Thank you, Susan. You're absolutely awesome.
Not to be outdone on the middle school level, but we also have a great award on the elementary level regarding our PE teachers.
Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra, I have the privilege to announce the principal from Cherokee Elementary, Walt Chandler, to recognize his fine teacher. So, Walt.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the governing board, Superintendent Peterson and Sandra. It is my pleasure to stand before you today to tell you about my PE coach at Cherokee. I'd like to start with a letter that I received on September 27th. It reads, Dear Principal Walt Chandler, Mr. Michael Waykazer of your Physical Education Department has been selected as the 2012 Arizona Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance Elementary School Physical Education Teacher of the Year. Mike, can you come up here with me, please? Congratulations to your school. What an exciting way for Cherokee Elementary School to start off the new school year. Mr. Waykazer will be honored at our award ceremony on October 25th and 26th at the Phoenix Convention Center. We invite you to celebrate this honor with Michael at the ceremony. More information to follow. And boss, I'm going to put in a request for leave on that day. Mike is no stranger to awards. He also won the Charros Teacher of the Year for Cherokee in 2011. In 2011, he also was the National Jump Rope for Heart Coordinator of the Year, the first Arizona teacher to win this ever. He helped our community to raise over $22,000, which is $6,000 more than any other community in our state. He also has been a co-chairman on the District Transfer Committee from 2010 until the current time. He's the scheduling committee chairman at our school. He's the webmaster at our school, and he is also a beginning PE teacher mentor, and he's mentored 3 different individuals. He's also the career ladder facilitator at our school, and he volunteers for a number of things that our APT does at our school. And I'd also like to mention that his children have gone or do attend Cherokee Elementary School, so he's in it to win it with Scottsdale Unified School District. So I am very proud of Mike and his accomplishments. He is truly a Scottsdale sensation. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Next, Dr. Von Nechten is going to share with us some accolades that are happening at Kokopah Middle School.
Kokopah and Cherokee Elementary, again, is my understanding. Both Kokopah and Cherokee Elementary were selected as a Be Kind Starter School by the Be Kind People Project. In fact, last Wednesday, I understand that Cocopa had an assembly in regards to this. At this time, I'd like to introduce Susan Thomas, principal of Cocopa, and Walt Chantler, again, principal of Cherokee, to tell us a little bit about the Be Kind to Starter School.
Can I talk? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Van Echten. Madam President, board members, Dr. Peterson, Ms. Como, it is with pleasure to be here tonight and explain to you that we are both named, I just went blank.
Be Kind Starter.
Thank you. It's been a long day. Be Kind Starter Schools from the Be Kind People Project. I would like to introduce right now Bo Whittington, who is the Executive Director of Special Events for the Be Kind People Project. And Be Kind People Project is a nonprofit organization which inspires kindness in classrooms and honors teachers all over the country. And we are privileged, Cherokee and Chaparral, Cocopa, in the Chaparral learning community, forgive me please, to be starter schools, which means our students and our staff are all involved in creating gestures of kindness, and we have been assigned a starter school. Our partner school is Cesar Chavez K-8 school in the Roosevelt School District.
And ours is Pueblo Elementary, but not in our district.
Gotcha. And so right now, all of our students are busy creating these gestures of kindness, and it can be anything, and we have boxes that are going to be delivered to these schools for the children and staff members, and they in turn are going to pay the kindness forward to another school. So if you've seen the movie Pay It Forward, it's all about being kind and paying that forward, and we know that our kids and adults can certainly use a lot of that every day. So thank you very much for honoring us this evening.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Principal Mrs. Christine Bono that's going to come up and talk about Redfield Elementary School and the recognition that they're receiving.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra. This summer, we had the opportunity to learn about the American Heart Association Fit Friendly Work Designation. The American Heart Association that does great things for the heart smart stroke prevention had a new program called Fit Friendly Work Designation with several different layers of criterion that schools can apply for, or any workplace can apply for, from a community level, platinum, all the way up to gold level. And Redfield, this summer we applied, and no school had been awarded it before, and we found out this past week that Redfield has been awarded the gold designation for being a fit-friendly workplace. What that means is building upon the strategies and processes we already have in place, such as allowing our staff members to participate in our trekkers, our Grand Canyon trekkers, and our runners club, allowing our teachers to wear their tennis shoes to work with their pedometers, graphing how far our teachers walk during the day. Our classified staff have the opportunity during their break we provide them information on where their walking trails are and how far it is around our area. So they're able to take advantage of that during their breaks throughout the day, as well as our certified members. We also got to modify the opportunities and choices we have in our snack machines, and which was one of the criterion in order to be a gold level that we had to demonstrate that we were doing, that our staff members, the adults who work in our environment, have a lot of opportunity to make healthy choices throughout the day, and it's really been a positive opportunity for our school. So we were really thrilled and pleasantly surprised to find this out. My teachers will find out tomorrow, so everyone here knows more than my staff, because we just found this out. So at the end of next month, we will be getting to participate in a award banquet to recognize this great honor. So we're really excited, and we're looking forward to coming back a year from now to show you all the great things that this program did for us, and to encourage all schools to apply for this designation. Thank you.
And finally this evening, as a recognition of great things that are happening in Scottsdale schools, several of our teachers, and a few of them are here this evening, are being recognized at the Arizona PE and Dance Conference from the American Heart Association for the things that they have been doing to really be heart healthy. From Mountainside Middle School, Philip Gradisar, I think Philip's here. Thank you, Philip. From Cheyenne, we have Nancy Holtbrook and Carol Ashim. I don't think they're here this evening. And then again from Cherokee, Michael Weichheiser. So thank you, Michael. They will be receiving awards at the AHPERD conference coming up, and the American Heart Association just wanted to reach out and let them know that they appreciate all the efforts they're doing. So thank you all for what you're doing there.
At this time, we will take public comment. I have one card. Those wishing to address the governing board must complete either a blue card or a white card. I have one from Susan Wissink, and we just want to, if she would like to come up. Okay, come up. Okay, and just to let you know, the board cannot comment on anything that isn't on the agenda, and you have 3 minutes, which our wonderful Vice President will track, and he'll give you a little clue there.
Okay. Madam President, governing board members, our superintendent left us, but I was going to address him as well, and Sandra. My name is Susan Hassig-Wissink, and I am standing before you here today as a parent of 3 fourth graders at Kiva Elementary School, and also as a proud graduate of Kiva Elementary K-8 and Saguaro High School. So I'm a proud believer in the Scottsdale School District, but what I'm here today to talk about is the K-8 model. And I want to thank all of you for considering it and for your decision in June to allow us the opportunity to explore the K-8 option. I'm not here to debate the merits of K-8 versus middle school, but deserved or not, there is a perception that exists, and it seems to be strong at our school, that middle schools are a weak link in the public school system. And we've lost a lot of good families and kids who have decided to go into charter schools or private schools that offer the K-8 model. And so we as a parent group, and it's certainly not a unanimous parent group, but I'm standing here before you to represent some of the parents who would like to see us consider the K-8 model, but perhaps have a little more time to do so. As you all know, you've made your decision in June of last year, after the school year was out, to allow the current 6th graders to sign up by November 1st to have 7th grade at Kiva next year. Well, a lot of those students had already made their decision. Mojave is an excellent option. It's a brand new school. It offers a lot of programs, and a lot of families had made up their mind by the time you all made your decision that their children were going to go to Mojave or were going to go elsewhere. And so I don't know that we're going to have the 60 signatures that we need to have Kiva be a K-8 option by November 1st. And so what I'm here to ask you is whether you would consider, and this is obviously not an agenda item, I'm just expressing an opinion of what our parents would like you to consider when the time comes, is to explore whether we could have a little more time. So the current 5th graders would express interest. We've already put a notice out to see if there are any that are interested, and I understand that as of today, we sent it out in our caller, the Kiva caller on Friday. 7 have already expressed an interest, so that's a start. We may not get the requisite signatures, but we'd like the opportunity to have beyond this year, if you all would consider that, because Kiva, I feel like it created a foundation for me that has helped me succeed. It's a loving, nurturing environment. It was 25 years ago, or however long ago I was there, and it continues to be so today. And it's a choice for people, and we don't have that choice in our complex. And it presents a choice where people can go to middle school and have an excellent education at Mojave and a lot of opportunities, or they can stay in a smaller environment, which works better for some families. So I'm just respectfully asking you to consider that when the time comes, if we don't get the requisite signatures, to allow us to continue this exploration. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? No? Superintendent's comments. I keep forgetting you.
That's all right.
I think that's 2 months in a row.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Since we've had a lot of recognitions, I will keep my comments short this evening, but I do want to share some important information. In the last couple of weeks, we have sent out the annual report on the school district. It is a very comprehensive report that talks about how we're doing, and I believe we truly are doing it better in Scottsdale schools. This report, it's important to note, was not paid for with any classroom type of dollars. This was paid for through the revenues we received from our bus advertisements. It was also paid for from our Title I and our CTE funds, because every year we have to send out annual reports regarding those areas, and so we have to be able to fund those. But it was funded from alternative funding, and I think that's important. But it's a great testament to the wonderful things that are going on in Scottsdale schools. Also from the county, it was sent out, the factual override pamphlet regarding our 15% M&O override that will be on November 6th ballot. Early ballots do start on October 11th, so that'll be very soon. That's an important override to Scottsdale schools and the dollar values to that. It is hard to believe that we are 29 days away from the election. And our override, it's important to differentiate that the override dollars for Scottsdale go directly to Scottsdale schools. They stay here in the school district versus some other statewide initiatives that the dollars regarding those initiatives are spread across to all of the state for all of the school districts. This is truly our time to have a local say for local control and local funding. This past week we had early release. We had an excellent early release day last Wednesday. 1,600 of our teachers spent the afternoon having great professional development. They worked on the Common Core standards so that we understand what's happening on the Common Core as we move forward. And truly the focus is making sure all of our students are college and career ready as they move forward. So we had some incredible professional development and work on the Common Core standards. We did have a little bit of a discussion earlier tonight about what's happening in October. This is, October is Pink Out Month. It is to support breast cancer. You see there is a sign in the back on the wall that some of our students have done. Scottsdale Schools has a lot of programs in a lot of our schools to help support what's happening for the Pink Out for the month of October. Also, I'm very happy to announce that one of our own principals, Mrs. Sarah Stavigma, has had a baby boy this past week. His name is Luca. He came a little early, but he's doing great. So Sarah, we know you're out there listening to us, trying to keep up on everything, so congratulations, Sarah. And then finally, Arcadia Connects is having an open house to showcase their school's technology. The open house will be on October 23rd. It's going to be all day long, from 7:45 to 2:20 in the afternoon. Anybody can drop in, sign in at the front office, and you'll be able to visit classrooms, see what students are doing, and have them show you all the incredible technological features that they are using to enhance their education. That goes from iPods to distance learning to flipped classrooms to media communications to CMAS to advertising art, Edmodo. All kinds of things are happening, and we're excited that Arcadia is having, again, their annual open house to showcase their school's technology. Madam President, that concludes our comments for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Okay, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. That passes 5-0. Next item is information discussion items. A, update on 2011-12 Arcadia Thrives program and Coronado's transition, study hall, and advisory programs.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Von Echten will be introducing our principals and their staff members as they talk about some of the intervention programs that they're doing to truly make a difference with our high school students.
Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra, tonight we have two updates regarding systematic intervention systems that have really met the needs of our students in two exemplary schools. First, we'll have Principal John Biera of Arcadia High School present an update on Thrives. I believe you were updated first last spring. This is an update to that report, I should say. And he will be followed by Principal Alyssa Tarkington of Coronado, who will present an update on Coronado's advisory program. At this time, I'd like to introduce John Biera.
Good evening, Madam President, Ms. Need, members of the governing board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra. It's certainly my pleasure to be before you to give you an update on our systematic interventions, so-called thrives. As you recalled, roughly a year ago, Arcadia administration came before you to get your approval to implement the intervention program at Arcadia High School. It is certainly my pleasure to give you an overview, a summary of the effectiveness of the program. THRIVES is an acronym that stands for Titans that have routine intervention varied for every student. And to give you a summary of what has been happening since that approval. Before I start, I'd like to introduce Ms. Nikki Allward. Ms. Allward is the assistant principal for testing, assessment, and safety at Arcadia High School. She has played an integral role in the implementation of THRIVES, certainly a champion for our students. So I'd like to really give her an outstanding applaud for being the champion of the intervention program that we have at Arcadia High School. So Ms. Allward, certainly appreciate all the hard work that you put into this.
Thank you.
To give you an overview of THRIVES, the first semester, and this is a program that was implemented the fall of 2011, and we started out with 3 goals that we wanted to achieve in this particular program. Number 1, we wanted to create embedded time during the school day for student academic intervention and enrichment opportunities. The day that we selected was Wednesdays. So we went with a structure on Wednesdays to provide both intervention and enrichment opportunities for all students actually for freshman students at Arcadia High School. Mandatory attendance for failing freshmen in core subject areas assigned to highly qualified teachers. And looking at our data historically, we were seeing that our freshmen were struggling as they transitioned from middle school to high school. So how do we cope with the struggling freshmen? How do we cope with making sure that our freshman students are not only connected to the school, but also successful in the classroom? So we wanted to look at options to target our freshman students as they transition from the 8th grade into high school. So we were looking at our freshman students. We also wanted to create common areas for all students to gain academic support. For example, tutoring with National Honor Society students, followed by our after-school program, which is called FAST. We also incorporated our library, silent study area and computer access. We opened our library so that students could have access to computers, as well as to provide a silent study area for our students. The cafeteria was also utilized as a group study area for students that wanted more of a tutorial session for assistance in those academic core classes. Our e-learning labs played a vital role, again, offering the computer access to our students. Lastly, we wanted to find some time within the day, embedded time during the school day for teachers to meet in their collaborative teams to improve teaching and learning. We have been on the PLC journey for the last 4 or 5 years. It's very important to create time for teachers to meet, for teachers to plan, for teachers to reflect, to use data so they can enrich and engage their students on a daily basis. So that is the overview of the first semester of our THRIVES program. Moving forward, second semester of the 2011-2012 school year, we began to see that not only were our freshman students struggling, but we also saw that our sophomores and juniors and seniors were also struggling in some core academic areas. But we also wanted to afford more students opportunities for academic support. We wanted to include enrichment during THRIVES, including AP, dual enrollment, and honors lab. Oftentimes, our focus is on the struggling students, and we tend to forget about our AP and honors students. We cannot forget about our students that certainly need a different type of support that are taking the AP, dual enrollment, and honors lab. So we wanted to create times for our students as well. Extending mandatory THRIVES, not only for freshmen, to also include failing sophomores, juniors, and senior students as well. So we wanted an inclusive intervention program to include all students at Arcadia High School. We increased THRIVES tutoring in core areas, in English, math, science, social studies, to bi-weekly, while continuing to provide embedded time for collaborative teams to meet to improve teaching and learning. You'll notice that we'll use the word embedded enrichment and intervention in our presentation. That's because embedded is very important. If you read the works of Rebecca and Rick DeFore, finding time during the structured day where we can meet the needs of their students as well as their teachers is very important. So what does Thrives look like? What does it feel like? What is the structure of Thrives? As you recall from the earlier comments, Thrives occurs on Wednesdays. This is a typical Thrives intervention day at Arcadia High School. You'll start with the periods. Notice that the day starts at the regular time, 7:45. Then we have shortened periods by 3 minutes. Students go to all classes. They do not miss one. They have a lunchtime, and then our day technically ends at 1:40. Students that are assigned to Thrives will go to Thrives from 1:45 to 2:20. So you'll see that the starting time, the beginning time is at 7:45. Our ending time is at 2:20. Again, this was taken into account because of the students that needed transportation home. So we shortened the classes by 3 minutes. An abbreviated lunch, which again meets the needs of our students. Currently, we have about 1,730 students. On a Thrives Day, our lunches are about 37 minutes in length. We do not have any issues with feeding our students at Arcadia High School. It's certainly something to see. So what do you see during Thrives Day? What are some of the tutoring sessions? We have math and social studies or science and English. Depending on the rotation, we'll have math and social studies or science or English for Thrives Day. We have additional enrichment intervention opportunities such as open art, dance, CTE, ELD labs, counselors, college and career workshops, AP Ames workshops. Our counselors have taken the role of providing Naviance tasks for our students, for our freshman students, sophomore, junior, senior students who need to complete the task on Naviance. We have other programs that have been offered by individual teachers in regards to AP and Ames. Excuse me. And then we also have other areas around the campus that are open for tutoring. Our library, Mount Olympus, both with certified teachers and student National Honor Society students as well. Change in school label. This is certainly a celebration for Arcadia High School. As you know, that Arcadia went from a letter grade of B to an A. We certainly like to think that Thrives, and we believe that Thrives did certainly have an impact on the rating. This can be largely contributed to the change of median percentile rank of the bottom 25%. In 2010, 2011, we had a 52nd percentile. 2011, 2012, 62nd percentile, an increase of 10 percentile points. So we're actually seeing some student growth. Change of median growth percentile rank of all students in 2010, 2011, 47th percentile, 2011, 2012, 52nd percentile, again, an increase of 5 percentile points. So we're certainly seeing our students perform. Thrives heavily concentrates on the bottom 25% of students, typically those students that are failing. Certainly clear evidence of increase in student performance. However, based on failure rates, we still need to look into the need for a consistent grading policy, not only across departments, but across the district. And I believe that we do have a committee that is working on consistency in grading policy, and we're looking forward for those recommendations. The graph that I'm going to show you now is the first semester of 2011 when we're focusing on freshmen. This is in percent. This is in percent of students that had one or more Fs. Freshmen in 2010, 2011, 27% of our freshmen had one F, one or more F. Once we implemented Thrives, it dropped down to 21%. So we certainly saw a decrease in the number of students that were struggling. 10th grade, 22 to 21. 11th grade, 24 to 22. 12th grade, 10 to 11. After modifications, second semester, again, in percent, our freshmen, again, 26 to 23. However, you'll notice that in 10th and 11th grade, we did go up. We're looking at factors as to why that happened. Certainly, we're looking at data, the number of students with that were close to passing in the first semester did not make it second semester. We're also looking at transfer students that came in. So there's variables that we're looking into the data to investigate as to why we saw that increase there. Our 12th grade went from 7 to 5. Our seniors, again, knowing that they're going to graduate, took a little bit more serious. So that is an area an area of concern that we're looking into, an area that we need to work on, an area that we'll continue to investigate and continue to improve on. Changes for 2012, 2013. With the 2.0 mandate, we certainly feel that Thrives is a critical component of our 2.0 GPA intervention plan. We certainly felt that we were ready to some degree this year with the 2.0 mandate, that we had a systematic intervention to meet the needs of our at-risk students or the 2.0 students. The use of National Honor Society students in open tutoring areas or within classes. This has been certainly embraced with open arms. We've had teachers and students alike that have given us feedback on the fact that, students actually like to help other students and receive that peer help from students. Our presentations with the Common Core standards here, college and career readiness, our counselors are certainly on top of it, teachers on top of it, so we provide seminars, we provide sessions for our students on college and career. This is done by our counselors, our teachers, our librarian. We are looking at other additional enrichment opportunities, such as the addition of Toastmasters. We've been working with a community-based organization led by one of our parent groups to bring Toastmasters onto campus to provide a seminar on public speaking to our students. Weekly announcements. How do we get the message across to our community? Weekly announcements via website, the PTO blast, and of course our ANN, which again announce the offerings for Thrives on a weekly basis. Students served, and this is the number of students served from the beginning of the school year. Our first Thrives Day, which was in August 22nd, we had 247 students that were served. On the 29th of August, 321 students. September 5th, 268 students. September 19th, 310 students. So we certainly have seen an increase in the number of students that have been served through Thrives. However, that we still have some work to do. On the first Thrives, when we looked at the data, 65 of the students who attended were mandated. 35 came in on their own, which is a good thing when you have students that want to stay on their own for other enriching opportunities. 20% of the students mandated to attend Thrives did not attend. This is a number that is bothersome. When you mandate students to attend, they don't. We certainly have to look at that, examine that as to why, and provide other tiered interventions for our students. On the fourth Thrive, September 19th, 63% of the students who attended were mandated. 37% came on their own. 17% of the students mandated to attend Thrives did not attend. Again, as I mentioned, a tiered disciplinary process is in place and has shown some success for repeat offenses for students that do not come to Thrives. Looking ahead, as we move forward, one of the things that the group the staff is considering is to change the day from Wednesday to Thursday. And you're probably saying, well, why? Well, because we feel that offering Thrives on a Thursday would be more consistent, would not interfere with the early release days that we have in the district calendar, where students are released at 11:20. We don't have that consistency from week to week. If we look at Thursdays, that would provide more of a consistency, month to month, week to week for our students, more opportunities for students to, and for teachers and students to interact and provide that enrichment opportunity, intervention support for our students. We are also in the discussion of looking at our bail schedule again to see if we can create some more time so that we can embed an advisory into homeroom period. And the advisory would be more of a check and connect. We certainly understand that the importance of students being successful in the classroom, but we also need to make sure that students are connected to our school and our community. If we look at the data of the 2.0 students, you'll notice that the majority of the students that have less than 2.0 are not connected to our community. And that's certainly very, very clear in what we're seeing. It will also provide a manageable caseload for students failing or below 2.0 GPA for teachers to track necessary remediation interventions. Again, this would be, again, just to check and connect with our students to see how they're doing both in the classroom and outside the classroom. It has certainly been a work in progress. We understand that we do have some challenges ahead of us. We have some challenges now that we're investigating and looking into it, but we're prepared to move forward and meet those challenges as best as we can and provide opportunities for all students, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, in both intervention and support programs as well as enrichment opportunities. So with that, welcome your questions or feedback. And Ms. Allward will have all the answers for you.
Mr. Brown.
I was just curious. Well, first of all, I am so pleased with this program. I'm excited about it. I was just curious if the honor students who are doing the tutoring are, I would assume this is you volunteer. There's nothing, and do they get some community service hours or something out of this that they can take with them?
So the National Honor Societies are doing it. They are required to meet a certain number of hours per year. And so actually one of those students has volunteered to sort of be the facilitator between the classes and National Honor Society students. So the teachers actually email her and then she sets it up on who will go out to each classroom. And we've actually had a lot of them helping in the English language development classes. So they're not only getting to help and assist those students, but they're also getting to practice their Spanish skills, which is a pretty cool thing happening, and we've received a ton of positive feedback from both the students and the teachers. Yeah, it is.
Mrs. Kirby.
Thank you for your presentation. Can we go back to the graphs?
First semester?
Sure, that'll work. So for 9th grade, I just want to make sure that, are these cohort groups or like comparing apples to apples?
We are not comparing apples to apples. So this would be apples to oranges. So
right.
Freshman year in 2010, 2011 to freshmen the following year. And the reason we did not do it by cohort year is typically we see a trend that students tend to have less failures as they continue on and become equated with high school. So to compare them from freshman year to sophomore year, we would naturally probably see a decline. So we did compare them freshman to freshman.
Okay. And then can you talk a bit more about I think it was 25% who are not, or 25% who are not attending the mandatory sessions, right, and what you're doing around that population of kids?
We'll find the slide,
yeah,
certainly.
It's 20% the first time and 17% on our class.
Right, we're seeing, Madam President, Board Member Kirby, we're seeing that we're mandating students to attend. However, they choose not to attend. And so this creates a challenge for us as to how can we, not necessarily, I don't want to use the word force, but certainly make sure that they attend. We do follow up with the students immediately within 1 or 2 days that we're notified that students did not attend to see why they could not attend. And the reasons vary. Transportation, didn't know about it, no one told me anything about it, but we do meet with the students face to face. We do, in often cases, we also provide, we start the IPT process for the students, where we start that process for struggling students, and then we do also call home. In some instances, I have met with parents where students have not attended repeatedly. I take out their transcripts, their credits, and say, well, this is where we are. And if we don't see a drastic change or a change in trying to use these opportunities, then this is where we're going to end up. So we do go through that process, and then we do have other measures, for example, like our FAST program, which is after school, where we offer that opportunity as well.
Then we also have our GAP program on Saturdays that is also an option. We're constantly meeting with our students, phone call, as well as parent conferences. You bet.
Mrs. Peterson?
I agree. This is very exciting. I mean, this was exciting a year ago when we first heard about it, and I mean, the results are encouraging. You know, there are some inconsistencies, but I think it's very encouraging. The 10 percentile points, wow, that's huge. A couple of quick questions. Just to confirm, the Thrive's obviously in that time frame at the end of the school day, that's open for everyone. And you had touched on that it's not just the bottom 25%. This could be a child in AP American History that's struggling, which is great. Are you finding that, is that a successful model for all students, are you finding, I guess is my question.
Madam President, Ms. Sneed, Governing Board Member, Ms. Peterson, we're certainly seeing students, our upper level students take advantage of the enrichment opportunities provided by Thrive's program. We've had sessions where our AP students are actually with their AP teachers talking about the AP exam. So we're seeing, little by little, we're seeing an increase in students that are staying for those enrichment opportunities, as well as other opportunities provided by our dance programs or open labs. So we're hopeful. We want to remain positive that we do continue to provide these opportunities for our upper level students, for all students, whether they're struggling or not, to have these enrichment opportunities at Arcadia High School.
Absolutely, for all students. I'm just curious, and I think it's a time will tell. I'm sure the data's too soon yet. I'd be curious to see if enrollment in AP classes, the honors classes, if it increased. Additional help, and then how the AP testing. If the scores are getting better. I mean, that would be interesting to track ultimately.
That is certainly a viable option. One of the things that we're excited about is our AVID program. You know, providing AVID enrichment strategies during our Thrive Day, and then track that to see if we have an increase in AVID students in the upper grades. So.
And then I know this is something we had discussed originally at the conception with Anna Marie, kind of trickling down from Ingleside, et cetera, kids filtering into you, they're prepared for this. They're ready, they're poised to do this.
You know, it's always we certainly, Madam President, Ms. Sneed, Governing Board Member, Ms. Peterson, that is certainly something that we take heed and try to do our best in communicating our Thrive program to the lower grade levels. Incoming 8th graders coming into high school certainly need to know what options are out there regarding enrichment opportunities as well as intervention programs. So as we get closer to that time, and we'll certainly communicate this not only to our feeder programs but also to our community.
Great. Well, thank you. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Dr. Meyer?
I just have questions about the C average or below, the 2.0. So the plan is to start integrating those students into the Thrives program. There's probably 400 additional kids on your campus that would affect, or you don't think that many?
No, I don't think it's that. We thought it was that, but Ms. Allward?
You know. I'm just looking at the charts they gave us earlier, and I made an estimate.
So in terms of all students, the number of students that are not failing a class, so they're not being mandated to attend Thrives, and that are below a 2.0 are relatively small. In the freshman grade, there's 3 students that don't fall into that. So they're below a 2.0 but not failing a class. In the sophomore grade, it's 6. In 11th grade, it's 12 students. And in the 12th grade, it's 7 students.
Now, I was given the sheet earlier, and district-wide, at the 9th grade level, there's 497 students at the high school level. So somebody's, is this the right chart?
That's all 5.
High school.
That's all.
Okay, but so you're a 5th. If you have 2, then one high school has them all. So,
So,
okay, Jeff's walking up.
Yep.
He's going to help me.
If I could, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Meyer, you have 2 data sets.
Okay.
The question that you asked was the number of kids that fell below the 2.0 and were not failing. So that's the small number, and when I gave you the charts in the study session, That would be that little blue bar across the district. So I would suggest that you rephrase the question, and what about the students who are failing a class? That's the large number.
Well, okay, okay. What about the students are
Okay,
failing
thank
class?
you.
But I'm still confused about my graph then, because I've got.
Your graph is absolutely accurate. Remember, there are two.
It's not a little blue bar.
Yeah, you're looking at the wrong one to
Okay.
ask the right question.
Okay.
So remember.
Well, I got lucky.
Remember what I said?
Or I
This
didn't.
one, the blue.
Yeah.
The one that has all of the blue in it.
Yeah.
That's the one that you want to use to ask that question.
That's the one I had.
Okay. What are we doing with the kids who have the Fs not? Yeah.
So the blue bar are the kids with Fs.
The blue bars are the kids who are not involved in the extracurricular activities.
Right.
That are in either of those categories. They're in F or below the 2.0.
Exactly. So what are we doing with the blue bar?
What are we doing with the kids?
So there's
who are
got to
not?
be more, this blue bar, it's more than 3 kids at Arcadia.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's going to be, that's why I'm saying it's going to be 400 kids.
Right. When you're
And-
looking at the number, I'm sorry, go ahead. When you're,
No, go ahead.
When you're looking at the number of students that have a mark in F, then yes, you're looking at Arcadia, we're looking at 527.
My number wasn't too far off. So that's a huge change because
Mhm.
you're got 300 a day participating now approximately. Some of those are those kids.
Right, some of these are those kids.
But you're going to add another, say, 300. Or you know how many.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it becomes a management system as well, and then is 40 minutes enough time to meet the needs of those students?
Right.
And so those are actually questions that are steaming up as we move forward. Yes.
Okay, good. Well, just one other thought. I'll be waiting to hear what the plan is for those kids, because we've spent a lot of, now we've learned there's a lot of these kids and they need help, and we didn't know before. And I think there's a huge opportunity for us to improve all of our district scores, because, you know, the bottom quartile is double weighted. So this is another offering for those kids that, for like SAT prep. Has there been any thought, is any of that done on, during that time as well?
Madam President, Ms. Sneed, Governing Board Member, Mr. Meyer, yes, that is a thought that as we move forward, our college and career counselor will be providing some ACT, SAT prep readiness for students as well.
Because we have it already online.
Right.
If the computer lab's over, and they could give them guidance about.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Allward?
If I could add also.
Oh, yeah.
For this week example, for tomorrow, our AP English teacher will be providing an Aims to Exceed workshop. So any student that has met the standard in reading or writing is welcome to encouraged to attend that. We're providing Aims reports so they can actually get specific help in the areas of where they'll need improvement and in order to be able to exceed the Aims. So another great opportunity.
So how would I know as a parent that my kid needed to stay?
It was sent out in the PTO web blast, and it's on our website, as well as we encourage all the teachers to inform the students.
From a truancy standpoint, so are the kids released early, or are they, we have to release all the kids at the same time?
If you look at the bell schedule, technically they're released at 1:40, but those that are mandated or encouraged to stay will stay till 2:20. We have met, if you go back and look at the requirement for instructional minutes, we have met the instructional minutes throughout the day, thus allowing us to technically release them at 1:40.
I'm just wondering how, these kids that are leaving, they're supposed to stay.
Yeah, logistically, yes, that is an area that we are focusing on. How do we, once we identify repeat offenders, then what is our next step? What is our next step at intervention? What is their next level of tiered intervention? Again, this is where parent conferences, phone call home, making sure that mom and dad know that, look, here's what we have to offer on Wednesdays. We need your help. We need your support in making sure that your student, son and daughter, stay on campus.
One more question. So other than using the PTO news blast, can it become part of School Fusion so that the parent gets an announcement that says your kid has the opportunity to do this during, because you look at you get the calendar that comes up, and the kids look at it too. I mean, I don't look at it as much as I used to, but I used to look at it more, and I'd know, oh, looks like you could do this tomorrow.
Certainly an option to look at. I believe that could be a vehicle that we could use to inform parents that tomorrow we're offering the Thrives. He's mandated to stay, so absolutely.
Well, even not mandated. It's like there's SAT prep,
right.
Every Wednesday, every other Wednesday this month, moving in for those kids that are taking the PSAT to help them prepare for that, and then as the SAT cycles through.
Mr. Brown, and we're over halfway through this segment, and Coronado still has to present. So I'm going to save my comments for the end after both.
I was just curious if there was any time during any component for parents to be there for a Thrive session or any kind of interaction with parents during this thing.
Good question, Madam President, Ms. Sneed, Board Member Mr. Brown. We certainly invite our parents through Thrives. That could certainly be an intervention for if a student does not stay. Next opportunity, parents, you come with your student. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the information. And next would be Coronado's Transition Study Hall and Advisory Program.
Thank you.
From Alyssa Tarkington.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Peterson, Ms. Como. Thank you for giving us the opportunity as well to present tonight on our intervention programs, specifically the evolving programs from the 2011-2012 school year till the present in terms of freshman transition, study hall, and advisory. I have with me tonight Ms. Weissnick, who is an interventionist at Coronado, works with our as a dean of students, but also an RTI committee chair working with our teachers, our students, and our families involved in our various programs as students are both referred through our IPT process, but also identified through these programs as well as a recent 2.0 analysis. And so Ms. Weissnick will actually begin our presentation as she shares information from last year, and then I'll continue and we'll take questions. So Ms. Weissnick, thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra. Just a quick reminder about what we implemented last year for our intervention programs. We had asked the board back in June of 2011 to implement embedded interventions for Coronado. It was in two parts. It was for 9th graders and then for all students. So for 9th graders, we had a freshman transition and study hall class. Each was a semester long, so it was a year-long program for the freshmen. They earned a half a credit for transition, and study hall is a no credit class. For all of our students, we implemented an advisory period. It's a 28-minute period after lunch every day, and we did it for several reasons. Part of the purposes was we needed to provide mentoring for our students. Part of our S3 goals is we found out that 26% of our students didn't feel any connection to an adult at the school, and so we wanted to make sure that we develop those mentoring relationships so that they had an adult that could be there with them, and they would loop with their students so they could potentially be there for all 4 years with those students. We also wanted to increase our academic achievement. We want to make sure that we're monitoring grades and attendance. And this also provided a time for our guidance department to offer support groups, do the ECAPs and the programs of study without taking time out of the academic classes. Particularly, usually was English. And so that made the English teachers pretty happy. We also do offer and have for a long time tutoring before and after school. It happens in our media center, and it's Monday through Thursday from 2:30 to 4. So second semester, looking at, we did do by cohort. We did compare cohort groups. Cohort 2012, the seniors last year, cohort 2013, the juniors, and cohort 2014, the sophomores, all showed significant decreases in our failure rate. We didn't have any data to compare the ninth graders to, but if we did compare them to last year's ninth grader, the failure rate decreased from 53 to 48. And this is a chart showing you the failure rate from 2011 to 2012. So our seniors decreased from 25% as juniors down to 9% as seniors. Our juniors went from 38% as sophomores down to 34%. A big jump in our sophomore class. As freshmen, they had a 53% failure rate, and then last year as sophomores, it went down to 35%. Looking at our Ames results, sorry, the graph didn't come out exactly they wanted. Number one represents reading. And so we had a nice increase in our reading Ames scores. Number two represents writing, and our writing scores have pretty stable. And then number three is our math scores. So over the last few years, we had a little fluctuation with math, but Ames is always a challenge. So some of the things that we needed to improve upon, as always, our ninth grade failure rate. That's always difficult for us, but that's something that we're always working on. The teachers asked for a more structured framework for advisory. Some teachers are natural mentors and can do things and some teachers are not. And so they wanted a more structured framework for advisory. And then also tightening up the curriculum for freshman transition in our study hall classes. And then one of our always goals is to increase the percent of exceed students on our Ames tests. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Tarkington.
Okay, so we determined this summer we were really going to hone in on the school-wide intervention. Several changes in Scottsdale this summer, and particularly with our 2.0, and so that's where we have focused our efforts, knowing that, again, every cohort is important and not, excluding freshmen, but just to really, really tighten and focus on the one program this year. It has become a critical component, and as we go along in the presentation, I'll explain more about that with monitoring our eligibilities, as well as all interventions for students falling below a 2.0, as well as, again, all students. The time for advisory added 5 days a week can allow for up to 2 hours and 20 minutes for all cohorts to receive a variety of the services. Oops. There we go. Here's what's the same. Other than part-time teachers, all the remaining teachers have an advisory. It is the same bell schedule. Our link is not working. Did you all receive a copy of the bell schedule ahead of time? Okay. It is 28 minutes immediately following our lunch period. We do have our announcements during advisory that can be up to 5 minutes. And again, keeping the presentation component as a continuous component. Here's what's different. We created a handbook this summer with a much more structured framework. We knew that there were 3 purposes, just a reminder to provide an opportunity for connectedness to adults in the mentoring, increasing academic achievement, as well as an opportunity for our post-secondary planning and guidance program as well. So we created, some catchy phrases, and I'll explain those. Mondays are our monitoring Mondays. With our Synergy student information system, we have created an opportunity for the advisory teacher, even though there is no grade, there is no credit, that they are able to have a grade book option, and they are able to see the grades of all of their, the students in their advisory. They can see every grade that they have for all of their teachers. And so it's done a variety of ways. some teachers have really empowered their students, and they have the students checking their grades on the computer accurately. Some have gone to labs, or they already have classes in labs, so that's what they do. They attack on Monday. Some teachers have taken it upon themselves to take a look at that, and we just have less and less of kind of that paper carrying process around the campus that we often saw with athletes going on through this opportunity. Tuesdays and Thursdays are both tutoring days in terms of the opportunity to travel. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, students can actually go see content teachers. We have a teacher that's just very consistent with copying both Ms. Weissnick and myself and sending to other other teachers, I need these students. It could be to make up a test. It could be for tutoring, etc. But we have a pass system. We have even closed some of our offices during this time because we felt that it needed to be used for the intended purposes. So our bookstore is not open during advisory. Even our library is not open because, again, it's only a 28-minute period. And so that's what the travel is for. With Wednesdays and Fridays, it was to really emphasize that opportunity, again, in this framework that is highly suggested, but again, can stay academic, to really look at that connectedness piece. And we've had everything in our focus groups when our faculty has shared what they're doing. We have a weekly bulletin that comes out of our athletic office vice principal. They go over the weekly bulletin, and that's everything from sharing, extracurricular activities and games, but also, again, Ames is coming up right after fall break, those reminders, performances, you name it. If it's going on at Coronado, those things can be shared. And also to have those discussions, celebrate their classmates and their victories. For example, this past Saturday, our band qualified for state, early in the season. And so those are some of those kinds of opportunities. We have those who, we had an advisory, I believe, that was doing the 7 habits of highly effective teens as an opportunity, on Wednesdays. Friday, while we call it Fun Fridays because everybody wants to have fun on Friday, what we really mean by that is that's typically when you would have your guest speakers. Not only our guidance department going in and doing the ECAP and Naviance, our SRO officer has made it a point to visit all of our advisories, particularly starting with freshmen. We can have career presentations, but we've also had some team building. We had a science department that created a rubric with kind of a point system. Again, we don't have grades in advisory, but if we have, if we're using these planners that we provide for all of our students and, engaged again with our plan that I'll speak about in a minute, they may do, some type of a, Coronado Jeopardy or trivial, Jeopardy. So, just an opportunity again for that connectedness and team building with both their adult mentor, but also these classmates. As a part of, again, our monitoring, we have also implemented the intervention plan. We are using the intervention plan that was created at a district level, tweaked again a little bit for Coronado. And so when we had our first 4.5-week progress report grade, every advisory teacher was provided with intervention plans to work on with their students, as well as Ms. Weissnick worked on an Excel spreadsheet that made it very, FERPA friendly, so that those teachers would be sure to have that live snapshot and that they could verify what those grades were, and those students in those advisory classes filled out those intervention plans. In those intervention plans, not only were the students to go class by class and, again, record their grades, they also were taught, if they didn't know, particularly our freshmen, how to calculate their current grade point averages, and then they took a look at what was going on. Why are you struggling, in this class? And we felt like, that's anywhere from the students, kind of what would be the standard, and I think the spirit of the minimum GPA with falling below a C, but also our students that are perfectly capable of doing better, that are not happy with their C's or their B's, and to take a look at what the action plan needed to be. And quite frankly, in talking amongst our groups, this is not necessarily just before or after school tutoring. It's not necessarily just tutoring or study group and advisory. It could be they know they're not doing their homework. It could be that they're not engaging in class. They're not asking questions for whatever reason. And our hope, again, if you go back to the original purpose of this connectedness and mentoring opportunity, is that they have at least one adult on the campus that's frequently not their teacher. Okay, we have many freshman teachers who are working with seniors this year. We have senior teachers that have rotated now down to the freshmen, that they can talk about what does it take to be successful in class. And so this initial intervention plan was very enlightening, and you'll see some comments shortly. Another component is that Ms. Weissnick created, when we were all working on the master schedule, paired freshman advisories with senior advisories. That's not, I don't believe it's caught on the way we had hoped, but there are some that are using those pairings, so that if Ms. Weissnick had a senior advisory and I had a freshman, we could work together with some peer tutoring and whatnot. It is happening in other ways, but that was something that was also created in the structure. Again, we have identified who our most struggling students are at Coronado, and that awareness with teachers. And so again, while you might not be a content teacher in those Ames assessed areas of math, reading and writing, again, that connectedness with the students and monitoring and how they're doing, and that coaching and just adult student relationship. We have discussed advisory in faculty meetings as focus, and had interdisciplinary groups talk about how that's working for them. And again, some comments shortly will come from that. We want to add a student. I was invited into a senior advisory class that has given suggestions, strong suggestions, now that they're going into year 2, and it's important that we continue to get that student feedback as well. And so some of the celebrations are quoted here. Peer study groups forming within their advisory. Everyone feels there's a heightened awareness of grades. Some of those groups are feeling, more bonded, discussing solutions. And the willingness to tutor has been great. Initially, we made some announcements about NHS students, because they're always looking for those community service hours as a part of their requirements. And there were other students who were strong in certain subject areas, perhaps honor students and maybe just math or writing, and asked if they would have that opportunity as well. And so we have provided, that opportunity. We have some challenges that have been shared by the teachers. Probably the one that has been the most heightened is that twofold responsibility, in that we're mentoring our advisory group, but then again, at least on Tuesday and Thursday, wanting to have the opportunity to tutor their own content students. And so from a management operational standpoint, that's been tricky, depending on how much movement they've got coming in and how much they'd have leaving. Our student accountability, that's not been as prevalent, but again, it is not a graded course. We still have the ability and synergy, of course, to do attendance and those management, and there are just some students who aren't quite there with getting it. I would say, as the principal, the biggest challenge that I would want to, that I want to make sure that I acknowledge for our campuses, is that because of our size and the number of lunches at various campuses, by working with the instructional minutes and creating a bell schedule that allowed for these 28 minutes, we'll always have to be mindful of alignment. We want to honor our programs, our distance learning programs and our specialty programs at other campuses. And so that can potentially be a challenge as well. These have come from students and faculty alike, suggestions and incentive. This came from a senior group that said, hey, if we're that above 2.0, or we're above the 3.0 or 3.5 and have great attendance in that, why couldn't we have an extended lunch, once a month or once a quarter and that kind of thing. So operationally, I think we can figure that out as leaders. Some of, again, the content teachers have talked about, could we structure them? We know we've structured them by cohorts. Could we look at some other creative structuring where there might be smaller sizes for certain content, or maybe the 9th grade classes would need to be a little bit smaller. Coming from some honor students, in fact, I'll just go ahead and mention my national semifinalists happened to be in the same advisory class, and they talked about how great it is to have each other because they've got classes together, but they were curious, could you ever have, an NHS group, and then they could foster the tutoring differently, as well as have their own study group, take it to that next level. So I thought these were great ideas from students. We also wanted the teachers to comment, are we achieving our purpose? We've got to go back to why the advisory is created. And some of the comments, again, they felt that the travel time limited to 2 days a week was difficult. They wanted their students more often. And so that, again, becomes trade-offs when we look at some of the operational pieces with monitoring, are students truly going where they're supposed to in a timely manner, versus the need that we have for this opportunity. Again, grade checks, they felt, are making students feel more accountable. They love the presentations, and some students, and let me comment specifically, seniors, particularly juniors, they liked the homework time. It was kind of a double-edged sword. They were either, we don't need this, we're good students, and this is 28 more minutes that we're in school, or this is giving us a couple hours a week to get our homework done. I do believe I left out some information that I wanted to share, going back to, again, the 2.0 pieces and how that has played a part. I know you all have some information also from Dr. Van Echten and Dr. Thomas. We had our 4.5 progress reporting period, and currently in our fall season, we figured out that we have approximately 251 active extracurricular competitors right now. So that would be our fall season sports, volleyball, cross country, swim, football, etc., as well as our band that's already currently in competition. We know that as we move through October, our orchestra, choir, etc., robotics club, that adds in. At that snapshot moment, we had 72 out of our 251 students that were ineligible for competition. I have a little story that I went back and forth about whether or not I'd share, but I think we should. Coronado's freshman football team had one game that we did not have enough players to compete. But guess what? They kicked butt, and a little peer pressure and a little reality check about what that could look like for the rest of the season meant that it was only one game. So, you can look at that both ways. We, last year, it's a little bit difficult to tell what the impact would have looked like other than based on the information that we had through athletics, as well as our rosters from our band, choir teachers, etc. Potentially 510 students throughout the entire school year may or may not have been impacted by our eligibility with our 2.0. I think that it's difficult to go back and look at that snapshot GPA because we're not looking at the cumulative. So that's what we have on the transcripts. But again, moving forward, I think we'll very easily be able to continue to monitor that. And so at this point, I'd love to have feedback and questions.
Mrs. Kirby.
Thank you. Really enjoyed listening to your presentation. I was excited about it last year when it was rolled out because I have a daughter who goes to a school where they have a similar kind of advisory process set up, and I was anxious to see how it played out. And the early results do look positive, which is what I expected. I have a few questions. They're more just procedural, I guess, to try to understand. So my first question is, if I'm, let's say I'm an English teacher, and I have a student who's struggling, and I want to be able to communicate to that student's advisor to, here's some things, can you please work? What's the tool or the process that you have in place for myself as an English teacher to easily find out who the advisor is for this particular student?
Well, as Ms. Tarkington said earlier, they have their, on Synergy, the teachers have access to their kids' schedule, they have access to their kids' grades, they have access to their kids' transcripts. So they have this information. So if they want to work on some things with that advisory teacher and they don't have them in their particular advisory teacher, they know they can easily find out who it is. And then they can easily say, hey, you know, here's what we need to work on. In their handbook, they do have all their STEM words. They do have SAT vocabulary words that we provided to the all teachers through the handbook at the beginning of the year. They can also, the process for a student to travel on Tuesdays and Thursdays is in their planner. There's pages in the back for passes. And so the student throughout that day on Monday, on Wednesday, has their teacher say, hey, you know, you need to come to my advisory on Tuesday and Thursday, and they sign them a pass. That student goes to their advisory teacher, says, hey, I have a pass, I need to go to English, and then they say, okay, and then the kid goes on to his English teacher. And that's another process.
When that was, you just hit on the second question I had, so you read my mind. Have you, I know the high schools are working on parent-teacher conferences and how that looks. Have you given any thought at Coronado to possibly having the advisor be the point person for these parent connections so that the parent's connecting with that mentor for their child?
The way that we've been having parent conferences at Coronado for a couple of years now. They're not new to Coronado. The way that we offer them is that we have all of our teachers either in the lower gym or in the cafeteria, and then as the parents come in, they can go and visit whatever teacher it is that they need to visit. So if they just want to visit the English teacher because their child is struggling in English, they have the opportunity to do that. If they want to come by and say hi to their advisory teacher, they have the opportunity to do that. So all teachers are available and there for the parents to come and talk to.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mrs. Peterson?
Thank you. I thought this is very exciting, very encouraging, a lot of good work. And I have to tell you, I especially liked having the feedback from the kids. I find that to be almost the most valuable of all, just really hearing what they're saying. Now, with that said, I know amongst the feedback there was talk about doing this more often during a week. How do you think? I think that would be valuable. I have no idea how.
It's controversial, to be honest. The period is short, and so, you know, between travel time and, you know, the few minutes of announcements, we felt that there's multiple ways to foster that tutoring. And so while, you know, a teacher would love to have that structure during the school day, to have a test made up, if a test can be made up in, you know, 20 minutes or that time, we also felt the value of things that will go into the future. Some teachers have done a great job of facilitating study groups, because if I have all freshmen, then I'm going to have common classes, English 1 classes, whether or not they have the same teacher, algebra class, maybe I have geometry students who are advanced, etc. But we're going to have to make those decisions moving forward, because you have teachers that believe that travels too much and kids in the hallway and not enough time, and there are those who really want it. So we have not yet come to that conclusion. It doesn't mean you couldn't have tutoring going on 5 days a week. There's some teacher discretion. That framework was provided not as a staunch policy, but it was asked for, and we think we can continue for that to evolve, you know, over time. So we're just not sure yet if we're ready to extend. We're going to be anxious to see our Q1, you know, data as well, and really talk about what we think is making the difference.
And it's actually a very impressive work in progress. I mean, everything's not going to be perfect overnight, but you guys have made some tremendous strides already. Even the failure rates are coming down, you know, still maybe higher than I'm sure you would like for them to be, but wow, they're coming down. That's the impressive part. So yeah, very good. And the 2.0 story with the whole team, I mean, good story that, yay.
Yeah. Well, and I think so
the
too,
business at hand is educating, so yay.
Right.
You know, we got them incented, so yes, I understood the other side.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then my other question actually is for Dr. Peterson. Because when we first talked about Arcadia and Coronado, we talked about all schools implementing their own type of program along these lines. How are we coming with that? All high schools, at least.
Madam President, Board Member Peterson, again, what we've learned at both Arcadia and Coronado are great lessons that our other high schools are taking. And so they're talking about how do we address the 2.0 students, and that's exactly what they're doing, is putting these types of interventions in place. A little different in the sense of they're doing it now in the year versus starting out from the beginning of the year, where the schools here started out already. So I think next year, or even probably next semester, starting in second semester, they will have some set times already put in place. So they're learning what's best and what's working in both of the schools. And I can tell you that, and Alyssa can tell you, the high school principals are having a lot of talk about this whole issue and how to make this happen. And so I think these guys are doing a good job leading the way, and you're going to see it in some form at all of our high schools. And then eventually we will be looking at our middle schools to implement some type of an additional support model.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you so much, and congratulations. Congratulations to your whole campus, really. You're making great success.
Mr. Brown?
I too am excited about your program. I was just curious, when you have your parent-teacher conference soirees, is there a guidance counselor there also?
Yes, all of our, yes, Mr. Brown, we have our guidance counselors there. We have, that way we teach the parents how to log on to School Fusion. We give them their parent view, which we would, some of them that haven't picked them up already, they will be getting those. We have usually the many computers that are, will be set up in the conference area. So that way, if they don't know how to do it, we can teach them right there. All the administrators are there. We do, everybody that needs to be there is there at the conference.
So we can be talking about college prep. We can be talking about all sorts of things.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
I just have one question. Working with the young lady that I mentor, she was given a list that shows the courses and credits that and the amount of community service that she's going to need to do over the next 4 years. And to get into a state college, and then there's another list that's for competitive colleges. And I noticed that the competitive colleges, one of the requirements was 27 to 28 credits. And I'm wondering, how do they fit all, how do they fit all those credits in if we're taking away time in the school day for those kids who really want to go to a competitive college?
The advisory doesn't impact the number of classes that they can take during the regular school day with our instructional minutes, if that answers. There still are e-learning opportunities, summer school. We don't have very many 0-hour classes at Coronado, but that is something that we certainly, would look to build, in the future.
Okay.
So we are not taking any class time credits away.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you all.
Want to take a couple minutes before the next presentation? Or are you guys okay? You guys good? Okay. Update on the demographic study by Dr. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This evening I'm going to present a quick update and a snapshot of where we are with working with our demographers of applied economics as we move forward to continually study what's happening in Scottsdale School District and to try to plan as we move forward for our students and our school district. As we did the demographic study, the district is broken into small areas so that we can get a much better picture of what our families are doing and where representations are for students coming to us. So this is the grid geography that we used in order to dissect the district, if you will, in order to complete our study. There were some key findings that came out of our study. First and foremost, this study incorporated the 2010 census. This was the best data we've had in a long time. Obviously, the last census was in 2000. So for 10 years, we haven't had a true census that went door to door and got actual individual information. So our study was able to use that. Our enrollment has remained virtually the same over the past decade, but most striking is the alterations that are taking place in the district. And part of this was the change of the economy that nobody could predict. So a lot of the work that we had done with the ASU Decision Theater back in the 2006 timeframe was work that took certain assumptions, but then when the economy changed, those assumptions were no longer valid. And so, again, I think it's important as we move forward what happens. We saw a housing unit increase from 2000 to 2010 of around 11,000, but the total population only increased by 750. So that goes to show you, as that bubble burst, a lot of homes were built here, but we didn't have the families staying here. They lost their homes. Looking at our population density, really down in the southern part of our district, we have a large density, and then right along the corridor along the freeway, going up along the Redfield attendance area, and a little bit over by the Laguna area, we have some high density areas, and then it kind of fans out. Obviously, in the northeast corner of our district is the preserve, so we don't really have much density at all in that area due to being in the preserve. And then looking at our population per household, because that's a little more telling. As we look at it, density talks about the actual people living in the homes in those areas, and now this talks truly about how many people actually live in a house. And that's important because that tells us the families. A big striking picture for us is up north on the DC Ranch area, and you can see the population in that area. That's a little more. We do have a few pockets around the rest of the district, some a little bit around that Cactus Road corridor. Again, that's feeding into the Laguna boundary area. And then more importantly, taking our who lives in our homes to find out what's the actual age in those areas. So you can see some of our younger areas, the red areas show us that this is where a lot of our students coming up are going to continue to come from. What tells us also a little bit in the bluer areas is these are some aging neighborhoods that we're also going to see some overall increase of families as those neighborhoods tend to age out and they turn over. Looking at population capture rate. Again, just because we have students in there doesn't mean that they're all of our students, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but this actually shows the capture rate of what students we actually receive in our schools from those households. Again, those pockets are somewhat similar, but in the Paradise Valley area, that capture rate is a little bit thin, which tells us that a lot of times those students in that area are going to other schools, and that's an area we'll need to focus on as we move forward. And then the households without children under 18. Again, that's another sign for us to understand where are our shifts happening, where are those aging neighborhoods that are going to affect us, and as they turn over, as new families move in with children, we need to be able to plan for that so we have appropriate schools in those areas. This is showing our last several years from 1990-2000 to this year, what has actually happened with our growth rate on enrollment. Our enrollment has, as you can see, has gone up a little bit and then down and then up again, but the actual growth rate has fluctuated. A lot of that had to do with the market and what was happening in the market out there, and we're seeing just a little bit of an upswing again as families start moving back in, and a lot of couples that had moved in are now starting to have some children. The primary demographic change in the district is declining population per household. We know that Scottsdale is to the point where it's not growing with young families. It actually has families that are staying, and they're getting a little older, and so we know that. Both under the 5 and the 5 to 13 age groups declined about 16% in the last 10 years. And the 14 to 17-year-old high school group grew, but only by 3.7. So it's interesting, we lost about 16% in our younger students, but we actually grew about 3.7% in our older students. So that was kind of an interesting statistic to find that out. Our population mirrored the age of the family structure of the households in the district. The share of households with children has declined by 1.3%. So we're seeing, again, students are graduating, the families are staying, so we're seeing a little bit of decline of children in the households. This is a look back that shows our enrollment growth by level. You can see our high school growth grew a little bit. And our elementary, middle school areas is up and down based on families moving in and out over the last several years. This is a snapshot talking about the last 12 years. This is a great graphic that shows where our students come from. As you can see, our district is right there in the middle on both the left and right side. but we have a lot of students that come along strategically along our borders. So students that come into Arcadia High School, Ingleside, Tavon, students that come into Cocopah, Chaparral up on that northern side. And then you can see up on the top area, the Cave Creek students that come into a lot of the Chaparral, Copper Ridge. Desert Mountain students that come from Fountain Hills over on the far right. And then it's interesting to see, look at the scattering of students on the southern part of the graph, all the way from Mesa, all the way out to East Mesa. So we truly have a large distribution of students that are coming to us from a large geographical area. Matter of fact, we actually have a student that comes to us from Buckeye. Pretty interesting, drives every day from Buckeye. So we really have a large distribution. This graph shows very interesting by school, and this is our elementary and middle schools. But this shows over on the far right, you'll see our outside district attendance at a school, the total attendance, and then the total of students that reside within that attendance boundary, and then a difference. So really, that gives a depiction of what students come from outside the district area, and then what comes within different attendance areas. And then also the far right shows us some areas where we really can work to try to capture students and bring them back. In the high school, here's another one that shows you. For instance, Arcadia High School, it has 599 of its students that come from outside the district. Their total attendance is 1,686, and residing within the Arcadia boundaries is 1,036 students. So that means we are picking up not only the 599 students from outside the district, but we have another 51 students that come to Arcadia from within the school district. So it's kind of some telling numbers as you look through the charts, but I added these from my presentation that I had sent you based on some questions that were presented from some of you regarding where are our students that are attending from outside the district at the different schools. So I added these charts. Our households truly are headed by persons from age 25 to 44 is decreased by about 4,400 students in the last 10 years. And in the same period, households of aged over 55 has increased. So we know that we truly have an aging population in Scottsdale. There was 5,600 new housing units that were added over the next 10 years that we're projecting. The number of households is expected to increase by 9,200. So you can see that we have roughly 3,600 households that currently are in Scottsdale that we're predicting families are going to move back into, and we'll be able to have some children coming into our district based on those households being filled. This is the household characteristics that shows the households with children, their age levels, the couples with children, single parents, also households without children, and then the households by age. So we really have a clustering of households that are occurring over the next, from the past 10 years of aging population, and that's truly what we're seeing. And then vacancy rates. This is a chart that shows the vacancy rates. Right now we're hovering around the 8.5% to 9% for vacancy rates across all of the district. That includes single family, townhomes, condos, and multifamily. So we have a little bit of room to pick up those areas. And then new development. This is where we'll get some growth. So we're predicting over the next 10 years, we will have 6,000 new households developed in the Scottsdale School District boundaries. So again, that's a little bit of our growth where we're going to see some students not only moving back into the existing homes as vacancies are reduced, but also 6,000 new homes that will be built over the next 10 years. Applied Economics and Landiscore did this work for us. They did the City of Scottsdale's master plan. They have all of the data, so we felt very, very comfortable utilizing their data based on their recommendations, because we truly feel that they have a handle better than anyone else right now on what's happening in Scottsdale. So we feel the data is pretty good. The green areas, dark green areas, are open spaces that are done. The yellow areas on this graph are really vacant land, and this is where we're going to see the infill of homes develop. So DC Ranch still has some build out to occur. And then in the Paradise Valley area, there's still a fair amount of lots there that are vacant that need to be infilled, and we see that happening over the next several years. The average number of school-aged persons in our households decreased from a high of 0.339 to 0.296. This number is significant because this is what we utilize to be able to determine, based on households, what students would be available. At the present time, there's about 9,000 school-age students that live in our district that choose to go to other educational providers. That 9,000 students is where we will need to be able to focus on the next several years to make sure that in order to grow, we need to bring those students back to Scottsdale schools. Overall, our district enrollment is expected to remain fairly stable over the next 10 years, but we're going to have some increases and some decreases, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Our projected enrollment and enrollment growth by years, you can see we will grow a little bit, but it will not be significant. About 71% of our high school students attend high schools in their attendance area, and 75% of our kindergarten through 8th grade students attend schools designated for their area of residence. So we're losing a little bit of students in the elementary area. We get a little bit back as they move through the area. Then we see some students leave during middle school, and they stay away as they move into high school. So we see about a 4% reduction of the students that live in those attendance areas that are not coming back to their schools. Copper Ridge is expected to have the largest enrollment among kindergarten through 8th grade schools in the next 10 years, growing by an additional 85 students. Cheyenne Traditional should grow by 54 students and remain as a number 2 sized school. But some good news in our southern part of the district, Mojave, Kiva, Navajo, and Pueblo are all projected to grow by over 100 students. Navajo and Pueblo will have the largest growth. Mountainside, Pima, Cocopah, and Anasazi schools are expected to lose over 100 students. Again, this data does not take into account open enrollment. So both Mountainside and Cocopah are very strategic for open enrollment students. So even though we're projected to lose some students there, we believe that we'll be able to maintain level numbers based on being able to accept the open enrollment students that come to our district from those strategic locations. Desert Mountain currently has the most students at 2291, followed by Chaparral. Both of the schools are going to decline a little bit. Desert Mountain will have the most decline. We are seeing the area around Desert Mountain over the next 10 years truly age to the point where we will not have families with children there as much as we do. We're predicting to lose up a total of 624 students in that whole Desert Mountain boundary area. Chaparral, we believe, will become the largest high school with an enrollment of 2,087 in the next 10 years. Arcadia is going to gain another 86 students, and I can tell you that Arcadia currently has a waiting list of 150 students. Because we put a cap on the Arcadia enrollment at that school based on our agreements when we built that school, we've had to close open enrollment to Arcadia. If we had open enrollment unlimited there, we easily could put another 150 students based on the current waiting list that we have at Arcadia. So we know it's a very, very strategic and valued school. Coronado and Saguaro, I'm happy to say, are going to gain 223 and 136 students respectively over the next 10 years as we see, again, families moving back into those neighborhoods and students happening. So here's our projected enrollment. We're going to have a little bit of leveling off, and then towards the year 2020, 2021, just a slight dip, but it will be, again, a slight dip. We do not believe that we will see a major dip. But this is saying that if we do nothing else, we have to, as I said earlier, go after those 9,000 students that are living in our district that are not attending our schools. The complex areas do have meaningful differences, and that's something that we need to understand as we move forward. Arcadia Complex has been fluctuating in the last few years. It's older, well established, and there's large changes in enrollment will not be expected. It will continue to remain fairly stable. Here are the numbers for Arcadia and the Arcadia Complex. Chaparral Complex, we will have some increased vacancy rates. They have happened in the last couple years in that area. Enrollment will fluctuate slightly over the next probably 8 years, and then it will drop off just a little bit, except in the northern area. The Chaparral North, which is the Copper Ridge, the DC Ranch area, will increase, and that's where we will see our growth for the Chaparral Complex. Coronado. Coronado has some recent additions in the housing area there with multifamily. Also, they're getting ready to do a large complex right next to Skysong. We believe that most of that will be some professional couples and things, but we also believe there will be some families in that multifamily housing. And then there'll also be some additional turnover in those areas. So we will have growth in the Coronado complex. And these are the numbers as we look forward to Coronado. And then Desert Mountain. Desert Mountain, as I said earlier, is truly our complex that will start to decline. We will have the aging neighborhoods. Students will be moving out, and we will not have younger families moving back in. So we will see a decline in the Desert Mountain complex due to that phenomenon. And then finally, Saguaro. Saguaro will have an increase. The population was down in 2010 by 8.6%, but we are seeing a little bit of an increase. The under 34 cohort was actually up by 5.7%. So overall, the groups were down, but the younger families is actually up. So we're seeing families move into the Coronado complex, and we expect our enrollment to increase over the next several years. Although it'll be modest, it will see an increase. Again, Copper Ridge and Redfield will be the areas that are projected to contain the largest number of students. Copper Ridge will grow in the first half, and then it'll slowly fall back. Redfield will have a slight increase in students through about 2015 and then decline a little bit. I said Desert Mountain will be our second largest school, we believe, in that area by 2022. Chaparral will overtake it, but not by much, but it will overtake it. And then Saguaro and Arcadia will have the fewest students currently, and they will remain over the 10 years, but they will see some slight increases. This is the projected enrollment. I sent this to you in the presentation, where we are looking school by school each year and seeing what we're looking at. And then this is an interesting graph to show our schools and where we believe they will be positioned. So Copper Ridge will remain for the K-8s as the top school. Cheyenne Traditional will be number 2. But then Mountainside, which is our third largest school right now, will slip down to about the middle part of the overall school enrollment. And that's solely due to the aging area around the Desert Mountain complex and what will happen to Mountainside. So this is a great graphic to show what we're doing to predict. You can see Navajo. Currently Navajo at 501, we're predicting to go to 645. So we are seeing growth in that Saguaro area and in the Coronado area. And so this is a great depiction to show what we believe will be happening over the next 10 years in all of our elementary and middle schools. In summary, the district enrollment is expected to remain fairly stable. At the present time, we do have 9,000 school-age students that live in Scottsdale School District but choose other educational providers. That is what we need to focus on in order to bring students back to Scottsdale schools. To grow, we have to focus on families that are choosing these other educational providers. This is a graphic to show you that within 5 miles of the center of our school district, there are 33 private, charter, and other types of district schools, whether it's Paradise Valley or Phoenix Union or Baltz or Creighton. So within 5 miles of the center of our district, we have 33 schools. But within 5 miles of our actual boundaries of our school district, there's 162 private, charter, and other school districts that we compete against. So that's really what we will need to compete against in order to make sure we capture those students and keep them in Scottsdale School District over the next 10 years. That is where we are currently on our demographic study. I would entertain any discussion or questions.
Mr. Brown?
You know, the one component that I don't think you could project was the fact that in the Coronado learning community, we have affordable housing, and now we have A schools. I think there's a marketing and a draw there for those older families that'll be flipping their homes. But to have Hohokam and Pima in there in that mix, I think is huge. And I don't know if we could ever project on that, but it sure is worth talking about.
Mrs. Kirby?
I feel like I've just run a sprint. Thank you very much. Okay, great presentation, lots of data to pour through. I guess I have a couple of questions. Some of them are rhetorical, but I do agree that we're going to see the growth in the southern part of the district, simply if for nothing more than with the multifamily housing that's going up. You mentioned Sky Song, but there's also across from Optima at Fashion Square that's going to be a new multifamily housing unit. They're pushing dirt at Scottsdale Road in Lincoln for apartment complex, and then I just got a news alert today that there's one that's being considered at 44th and Camelback. So that is all in the southern part of the district, but it's perplexing to me because I also know that there's existing condos and apartments out there. I think Artesia is one of them right off Scottsdale Road near Shap that's vacant. So I guess my question is, what confidence do you have that our vacancy rates are going to actually decline?
That's a great question, Board Member Kirby. I feel confident only because Applied Economics has the data, and they've been working very, very closely with the City of Scottsdale planners and the business development folks in the city of Scottsdale. So they've been looking at all those areas. And some of these areas that are closed, it's because there's deals being done right now. And so as those deals hit,
Okay.
they already have that data, and they've planned for it.
Okay. And then offline, you presented us, or you gave to us a list over time of schools that have opened that are, I'm assuming they're private or charter
That's
schools
correct.
over the past 50, 60 years. And if you look at this list, there is a slow decline, so I'm hopeful that the bleeding is coming to a stop.
And
that
9 schools have closed on that list. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, if you look back, they were opening pretty aggressively in late 90s, early 2000s, and now that's slowing down. So that's good news. The question is, how do you propose we try to tackle this question of how do we go after those 9,000 kids?
Great question. Madam President, members of the board, and all my leadership team. This is what we are going to tackle. I think you heard some great presentations tonight where we are well on the way to make this done. By us recognizing that all students need to be successful, and not only recognizing it by doing it, by going out there and putting interventions in place, but also we're doing achievement in place, enrichment opportunities for kids. That's what we need to be doing. We're currently working really hard in the middle schools to strengthen our middle schools because I believe we got a bad knock in our middle schools, and we've got to turn that around because fence talk is something that becomes reality. Even though it's perception, it's reality. So we are going to work hard to show folks that we are a great school district, you know, and I'll stand right here in front of you and say Scottsdale School is an A district. People talk great things about Veritas. They're a B. So I don't understand why people are going to a B when we're an A. So that's what we've got to be telling the story about. We read the same books that they read. We just assume everybody knows it because we've been doing it for so many years. We've got to go out and really tell that story, and that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to step up and really let people know how we're putting things on the map. You saw tonight 76 national merit semifinalists and commended students. That's tremendous. Those are the things that we got to let folks know that we are doing great things in Scottsdale schools. So we are going to focus on that and get our word out and really push hard to let people know that this is where they need to be.
Mrs. Peterson?
David, I agree. Great presentation. Thank you. It was like a sprint. A sprint.
I was trying to help you out.
Well, it's like a sprint with a fortune teller. Yeah, it's very like fast. And in 20 years, this is very, very exciting. I just want to piggyback on, I agree about capturing kids that aren't coming to our district. One thing I want to add in, again, is the exit interviews. Talking to people why they're leaving us, why they're not coming to us. You know, is it the K-8 issue? Is it some misperception with middle school? Because I have to say, even on my time on the board, I think we've done a great job communication-wise, getting the word out. I mean, I know it can always be better, of course. Everything is a work in progress, but we have a lot of communication vehicles now that we haven't had. So, you know, I don't know. Again, let's find out what the needs are, what people think we're not doing, and let's get that done more than anything else. But otherwise, great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You.
Next item on the agenda is action item. Item 11A, ratification of the 2011-2012 annual financial report.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra. I'm going to just give a brief presentation to summarize the annual financial report that we have finished up recently and ready to send to the state. Real quickly, in our 3 major funds, in our maintenance and operations and our 2 capital funds, we have some budget balances that we're carrying forward. In our 001 budget, our maintenance and operations, we have a little over $5 million. Now, this is carryover money that during the spring, when we were developing this current year's budget, we had planned for. So it's not really extra money, but we have planned for it and put it into place. So our next capital is our unrestricted capital with approximately $6 million. And then our soft capital money, we had about $1 million. And again, we carry over some of these monies because as we know in past, the state has been cutting some of these budgets. So we want to make sure that we have money a little bit and are conscious of those. On our maintenance and operations budget, obviously our largest budget fund, this is just a breakout that shows our regular ed consists of approximately 72% of the overall money spent. This isn't just instructional. This includes our principals and operations and our business office and our human resources office, but it is our largest piece of our maintenance and operations. Prop 301, another large fund that we have. This is our base pay. This is the money that we've spent. So we have our base pay, our performance pay, and then pot 3, which is the options, but majority of that money goes into base pay. So all this money currently is going into base pay into teachers. So we're taking this money, we're not using it for some of the other items, we're getting it right into those teachers' base pays, which we think is important. Instructional improvement, also known as the gaming funds that was approved several years ago. Again, 50% of it goes to teacher base pay, another 50% of it goes to some menu items. We're taking that money and getting it back down into base pay for the teachers. Keep those salaries up as we need to. Briefly, just unrestricted capital just shows really quick what we're using the unrestricted capital for. Obviously, we have the soft capital, which is spent for our classroom items, but we have the unrestricted capital. But this shows that we're taking that money and we're putting it into the classroom also. We're using that money for the classroom. Our textbooks and our instructional fixtures and equipment, our desks, other items are going directly to the classroom. We have a large textbook, obviously, curriculum. When we adopt curriculum and buy all those textbooks, sometimes we have some lost textbooks, or as we grow or move class sizes, we spend that money in there. Federal and state projects is the next section of our budget. Obviously, we get a lot of money in our federal projects, just over $11 million. This includes our Title I, our Title II, and also includes our special ed, our IED, IDE grants, and other items that we get from the federal government. And then we have a small amount of money, just over $500,000 that comes from local state grants. This has declined over the past couple of years because the state has cut some of those grant programs as the economy has lessened. This shows real quickly a summary of our federal and state projects. Federal projects, we have a beginning balance of a little it does show a negative number, but don't worry too much. What happens is with our federal grants, we get reimbursed from the state. So as we spend the money, we get reimbursed. We don't just get it up front in the year. So when we have those expenditures in May and June, it takes until July, August, September to get some of those monies back. So there's a little bit of a lag, but all that money was recouped. There wasn't any grants that lost money. Revenue of almost $12 million, some expenditures, and again, an ending balance. And again, some of those projects we will be getting some money in towards the end of this year as we finish our completion reports to make sure that there's no funds that are under budget. State projects, those are some reimbursable grants too, spending them across the board. Bond building. All these wonderful projects that we've done. We've shown you several presentations of how much we've done over the past summer and what we're doing, and I think just this number popped out at me. Almost $70 million we spent last year doing all these wonderful projects on these campuses, and it's just a great show of what facilities and what this district has done for those schools. So it's just one of the numbers that popped out at me as we were working through here. And then any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. O'Brien. Oh, okay. This time, can I have a motion to ratify the 2011-2012 annual financial report?
I move to ratify the 2011-2012 annual financial report and summary of the annual financial report as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 5-0. Motion passes. And at this time, I'd like to ask the board's approval of nominations of board members Dr. Eric Meyer and Mrs. Jennifer Peterson for the Arizona School Boards Association Honor Roll Award. The official endorsement says, for both of you, that the Scottsdale Unified School District recognizes Dr. Eric Meyer and Mrs. Jennifer Peterson for their work and dedication to students and staff in the district. During their 8-year tenure on the governing board, they have improved academic standards through proactive stance on learning and achievement. Despite the most significant cuts to education funding, the governing board maintained a balanced budget and preserved classroom dollars. Dr. Meyer and Mrs. Peterson have been strong advocates for education funding at the legislature. They have maintained open communication with staff and the community and solid working relationships with employee and parent groups. Their efforts have made a lasting impact on the students of Scottsdale Unified School District. And I would like to be the one to make the motion to approve the nominations of Dr. Meyer and Mrs. Peterson to the Arizona School Board Association Honor Roll Award.
Second.
We still have a quorum then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0.
Very much.
That concludes our action items for this evening. Congratulations to both of you. And at this time, does anyone want to make suggestions for future action? Okay, well, always give us a call if something comes up. Governing board.
In a shy group. So
Yeah, I know. I'm not worried about that. Governing board reports? Okay, dates of upcoming meetings. Friday, November 16th at 2 p.m. will be the governing board retreat, and that will be held at the MDA.
I have
Okay.
a question. How long, and I apologize, I didn't write that on my calendar before. How long will that be?
I think it's 4 hours.
Oh,
Oh,
so it's 2 hours?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's, you're wanting a combined, a blended family, right?
With we'll
So they're
include the
people as
new,
well. Yep.
the new, yes, governing board members. Okay.
The Friday, November 16th. I'm sorry, I just didn't write it down. I don't
Yeah,
remember when
I
it
think
came
we
through,
talked
so-
about it, yeah.
Yeah, so it was my error.
The last one. Then the next one is Tuesday, November 20th at 4 p.m. We'll have a study session followed by the regular governing board meeting at 5. And then in December, on Tuesday, December 18th, we'll have a 4 o'clock study session followed by the 5 p.m. regular governing board meeting. And if that's all, I'd like a motion.
We're in our new board members in December?
Like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.